In the know.
Good evening, everyone.
In the know.
Tony Reed.
Fire. Following the news in any way, shape, or form.
No shortage of things to talk about.
What does it mean? What will it bring?
This is a reality we simply have to accept.
Tony Reed. Fire.
Tony Reed. Let's go ahead and get started.
Welcome to another edition of In the Know. I am your host, Tony Reeves. Let's go ahead and get started. I want to talk to you about recognizing the times when the people you love disappear. Now, this is not one of those made-for-television movies that I'm talking about. This is not one of those ones where somebody has been kidnapped, or this is one of those ones where the person, found got the lottery, and then all of a sudden they changed their name and left the country. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is those situations where the people that you stay in contact with kind of stop communicating with you for whatever reason. And the reason why I say disappear and use that word disappear is because it typically comes when something is going on in that person's life. Now, just kind of back up for a second. Now, it's fairly normal that if you have people in your life that you engage with on a regular basis, that over time, as a result of life, you're going to start seeing that engagement decrease to some degree. Whether it's kids, whether it be job, whether it just be life in general. But there are those times where you need to be mindful that if your people that you love are going through something, that usually the way they manifest that they're going through something is they disappear. And they may not even realize they're doing it consciously, but they're reducing the amount of communications with you for a variety of reasons. And why is it important to understand that? Because a lot of times what happens is that when you're going through something, you may not feel like you want to share that misery with others. You don't want people to think that you're whining. You don't want people to think that you're complaining. So you kind of tell yourself that it may be in your best interest to kind of keep to yourself. And so as a result, you find that over time, you just kind of self-isolate. You just kind of, I hate to use the word self-isolate. Just say you just isolate. You just kind of isolate yourself. But it's important to understand and recognize what that looks like on both sides. One, when you do it on your side, meaning, because I know what it's like. I can tell you there have been times in my life. There was one particular time I can think of when I was running my law firm, and I hit a very, very major financial slump. And during that time period, I had to make a lot of tough decisions. And during that tough decisions, we're not talking about tough decisions in terms of, strategic planning and so forth. I'm talking about tough decisions where I was basically putting change in a Ziploc bag and walking to the grocery store because the car was broke down. I didn't have enough money to fix the car, and I had to go get groceries, and I didn't have enough money for a lot of groceries. And so during that window, it's kind of hard because when people ask you, hey, how are you doing? And then invariably in your mind, you're telling yourself, I'm not doing well at all. But then you don't want to burden the person with the fact that you're not doing well. But then you don't want to lie to them either and say, oh, I'm doing great, when you know you're not doing great. So what ends up happening is, and I can tell you in my case, I just kept to myself. And more importantly, when you do share, and even if you're not saying, anything that may be construed as if you are, complaining or begging or whatever the case may be, it's weird because there's a pride element that kicks in as well. Because you're sitting here and you're going through these things, and the reality is that you never saw yourself going through these things. And you're also telling yourself that at that point in your life, you shouldn't be going through those things. So it's kind of this feeling of embarrassment that you may have. So what do you decide to do? Again, you choose not to say anything because you don't want anybody to take pity upon you. You don't want anybody to feel like they have to do something for you. And more importantly, you start to feel like you don't want anybody to think you can't do it for yourself. It's just a litany of all these different feelings. So when you're in that position, you may feel that it's in your best interest just to keep to yourself until you kind of work through whatever issues you go through. And I can tell you from my standpoint, I've had that happen a couple of times. And usually what happens is that once things get better, I emerge. And it's not like I come up and say, hey, everybody, I'm good to go. It's just I may re-engage in activities that I wasn't doing before. You'll see me at a picnic. You'll see me at a meeting and so forth. Hey, I hadn't seen you in a while. I had to work through some things. And you kept it going. Because a lot of us have been conditioned, and depending on how we were raised, we may be conditioned to believe we have to resolve these problems on our own. We may be conditioned to believe that it is in our best interest to just address these issues because that is what you do as an adult. Now, unfortunately, a lot of times that's not always healthy, because I can tell you in my case, there were times when I kind of disappeared. I needed help. I really did. But I was so proud, I didn't want to ask for it. And so I just chose to keep to myself for periods of time. So why am I telling you that from your standpoint? There are people in your life who legitimately want to support you when you are having those difficult times. But they will also tell you that they can't help you if you don't tell them, meaning if you don't let them know. Like my best friend and I were joking because both he and his family and me and my family were going through foreclosure on our homes at the exact same time, and neither one of us knew it. And as we both came out of it, we just started shooting the breeze one day, and we just kind of slipped up and mentioned about the joke about stuff in the mail. And he was like, wait a minute, you were going through foreclosure? I said, yeah. And he was like, so was I. I said, when? And so we started realizing that we were going through it at the exact same time. But when we engaged each other, we purposely didn't say anything about it. And I wasn't like, I could help me, I could help him. We never knew, but he made the joke to me. He said, you know, it's amazing. I felt so alone in this situation. Never thought I knew people went through the process. It would have been so nice to know that somebody else was going through too. Never crossed my mind that my boy was going through it. And I told him the same thing. I said, when I was going through that, my wife was trying to support me in terms of keeping my spirits up. But as the primary breadwinner, I had all this on my mind. And he was in the exact same thing. His wife was trying to keep his spirits up. My wife was trying to keep my spirits up. And what we were looking for that we didn't realize we needed was someone in our spaces who could relate to what we were going through. We didn't even know that we had somebody there because we didn't say anything. So it's important that you take that opportunity to actively engage, because you don't know how many people that you have in your life who are willing to, if nothing else, share with you the reality that what you're going through, you're not going through by yourself. So it's now, I've told you the one side of it, meaning the person who's gone through it. Let's take a step back and let's talk about the other side. What does it mean when you have somebody in your life and they disappear? Sometimes the lifeline is to let the person know that they're missed. We have this running joke where one of our friends, we notice that he disappears, and when he disappears, usually he's going to the hospital. And so we've now gotten to the point that if we've noticed that it's quiet for a period of time, we quickly jump to him to say, okay, you're in the hospital. And he's like, why has it got to be in the hospital? Because we look at the pattern of your engagement. You're actively engaging, bam, 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 bam. And now radio silence, which is usually a good indication to us that you're going through something. And so the going through something usually may mean going to the hospital. And so it's important that we shared with him that we observed that that's what he was going through. And it's important because, again, when we reached out to him, he was like, I felt so ashamed. I said, I understand the feelings that you have. Hold on a second. Ooh, excuse me. And we told him, I said, we understand that when you're going through these challenges, that you may not want to share all of the painful details of what you're going through. We can relate to that. But we want you to know that we observe when you are not engaging. We want you to know that we notice when we don't hear from you. We want you to know that. And for him, I think it was great because he needed to know that someone cared. So why am I sharing this to you? You don't realize how much the people who are going through things truly value the power and the impact of the fact that someone actually cares that they're going through something. They're not looking for you to solve their problems. They're not looking for you to give them a lifeline. They're not even looking for you to come down there and just take over their situation. They just want to know that if they're out there on a life raft by themselves, that somebody is paying attention to the fact that they're not on the ship. Because a lot of times what happens is when people go out on their own and they're going through things and nobody reaches out to them, that adds to the stress and the isolation that they have, because guess what? Nobody even cared enough to reach out to see if they were okay. So if you have people in your life, especially people that you engage with on a fairly consistent basis, pay attention to the patterns. Pay attention to the patterns of their engagement, because those patterns can let you know that maybe you need to reach out. And also on the other side, if you are doing things, just know that your patterns signals to others what's going on with you. And when somebody legitimately asks you how you're doing, don't rush to be like, oh, it's all good. No. Don't rush to just gloss it over. Give people an olive branch into your world. You never know. That branch may be just what you need and just what they need in order to get to that next step and get over whatever they're dealing with. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another edition. As always, I appreciate you taking the time to tune in. If you like the topics, make sure you suggest any topics to me, share, like, and of course, reach out, because I'm always open for new suggestions. As always, you can find me on most social media platforms under My Name is Reeves. And of course, if you have your favorite listening platform, you can find this podcast there as well. I am Tony Reeves, and as always, I like to end my show with my favorite question of the day. Are you ready for the Anthony Reeves experience?